Daily reality check for Monday, July the 6th. Pierre Poilievre pissing off all the Liberals with his comments at the Calgary Stampede and causing people to have absolute meltdowns on social media. Watch this.
The future Premier of British Columbia, Kerry-Lynne Findlay. Way to go. Fresh off a big win against Liberal lobbyists from out east.
That is the best way that you could summarize the Caroline Elliott staff. Liberal lobbyists from out east. Here's Pierre taking some shots at Corey Teneycke and Nick Kouvalis. We all know that there's a beef between Pierre Poilievre and Corey Teneycke. Corey's trying to prep some sort of a federal coup right now against Pierre. He's been a long-time so-called conservative commentator. He's most famous for his comments during the last federal election, where he accused Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of being guilty of campaign malpractice after they lost against the Liberals. And you know what? Isn't it funny watching how the pendulum has swung completely the opposite direction now? Corey blew the entire race for Caroline Elliott, primarily with his decision to pull her out of the Juno News debate, but also just with some of the terrible staffing decisions and campaign decisions that were made. Both him and Nick Kouvalis, who Caroline hired from Ontario, were an absolute train wreck. And you know what? Those Liberal lobbyists, they took a big kick in the nuts, and they're probably running back to the east with their tail tucked between their legs. So it's pretty funny. But what's been even funnier, you guys, I've been loving reading the X post today. It's been hilarious watching some of these libs just absolutely lose their ever-loving minds. Let me share a few of my favorites here. We're going to start with the comment from Mark Marison about Pierre's comments there. Mark Marison is a longtime liberal organizer, and he's also right now trying to start up the Liberal Party of British Columbia to split off the vote base. So here was his comment. Pierre really is losing it because no one has met a federal Liberal who worked on Caroline Elliott's campaign. Just because there might have been a few Conservatives who don't like Poilievre who may have been on her team, it doesn't mean that they are Liberals. The party is more than the leader. You know what? If you're going to have Mark Marison come out and try and defend people for not being Liberals on the Caroline Elliott team, that's embarrassing. I mean, at the end of the day, that probably just paints Corey Teneycke even further into the Liberal camp than he wants to be. Mark Marison is one of the biggest Liberal voices in British Columbia. I think he was guilty of some sort of fundraising issue, or he had some sort of news story. You guys can probably put it up in the comments there. Now he's trying to start the Liberal Party of BC, and he's trying to defend Caroline Elliott's team. We all know that Corey Teneycke and Nick Kouvalis are absolutely libs that are just masquerading as Conservatives. Now, let's go to the next one here from Dimitri. Dimitri came out and said, if your theory is that Liberal lobbyists ran Caroline Elliott's campaign, then I suppose you're also suggesting Caroline Elliott herself was a Liberal. That would probably surprise both her and the lifelong Conservatives who worked tirelessly on her campaign. You know what? There's a lot of debate about whether or not Caroline Elliott's a Liberal, probably because she was the VP of the Liberal Party of British Columbia. But at the end of the day, many people believe that she holds to the values of conservatism. I myself believe that she should be nowhere near running as an MLA for the Conservative Party of BC. I might be in the minority on that position, but for me, it's this question alone. At what point are we allowed to ask whether who somebody hires reflects their leadership or not? Because if we were to use that as any sort of benchmark for Caroline Elliott, she hired Corey Teneycke and Nick Kouvalis, and they were absolutely embarrassing in their behavior. She also brought on board Katie Merrifield and Anthony Koch in comms, and they did an absolute treacherous job for her, like absolute failure. But you know what we're going to go to next is we're going to go to the response from that comment from Mario Zelaya. The reason we're going to go to Mario is he really is one of us. But at the end of the day, during the leadership race for the Conservative Party of BC, he should have kept his head out in Ontario. He stuck his head in here in BC, became a huge supporter of Caroline Elliott, doubled down on his position, tripled down on his position. Meanwhile, many of us were yelling at him going, Mario, this has nothing to do with Caroline Elliott. She's honestly just being run by Corey Teneycke. This has everything to do with a federal play. It's a federal coup that Corey's running. He wants the endorsement of the next premier for BC. He's trying to take out Poilievre. We were sharing all that online. Mario wouldn't listen. He kept doubling down. So Mario, at the end of the day, brother, I'm really glad that you've somewhat changed your tune, but honestly, you should come out and just say that you were completely wrong about Caroline Elliott. It has nothing to do with her as an individual. We're not attacking her as an individual, but she would have been a disaster as the premier of this province because she would have brought in all the Doug Ford operatives. It would have been horrible for BC and for Conservatives in general, but here's what he had to say to Dimitri there. No, Dimitri, You're supposing wrong. Kerry-Lynne has strong conservative values. She had a great platform, is a great person, and I'll never speak ill of her. A lot of folks who initially backed her changed their minds because of Corey. I cannot tell you how many people voted for KLF because they don't want Doug Ford-style politics in BC. That's exactly the point, Mario. It's what we were trying to tell you during the race. I'm glad that you've come and seen the light now, but at the end of the day, the issue isn't with Kerry-Lynne as an individual, but she should have nothing to do with the BC Conservatives now because of who she's hired and attached herself to. I will stand on that position all day long. You can assess somebody's leadership based on who they hire, and Kerry-Lynne herself has never apologized for any of the horrible comments made by Nick Kouvalis or others during this leadership race. Next off, we're going to go to Nick Kouvalis himself. So Nick was Kerry-Lynne's pollster. As you guys know, I was originally on the campaign team for Kerry-Lynne Elliott, and I actually resigned when I came to see some of the backroom games that were being played by Corey Teneycke and Nick Kouvalis, and some of the horrible treatment that they were giving to volunteers, staff, and to just BC Conservatives in general. So Nick comes out here and says, Pierre Poilievre can go F himself. I've gone from being a big supporter to being disappointed, but still a supporter. Nick, please do not be a supporter. You trying to endorse Poilievre would literally do more damage to him than good. It's your endorsement of Poilievre is literally worse than Amelia Boltby trying to endorse Peter Millibar during the leadership race for the Conservative Party of BC. She just crossed the floor to the NDP, and she's an absolute wingnut. Literally, I think that when she endorsed Millibar probably took a dip in the polls, but if you were to start coming out and being that supporter, even begrudging, you would do more damage. You're the most embarrassing Conservative in Canada. You need to check yourself into recovery. Your posts on X after you've been drinking are absolutely atrocious. You're an embarrassment. We want nothing to do with you. Now, he's gone out of his way to make me his opponent. Good, idiot. He gains nothing by poking current CPC voters in the eye. Zero critical thinking going on, yet his head is so effing big in all the photos. Buddy, there's nobody that's getting poked in the eye as a CPC supporter. If anything, it's just you. You're not CPC. You're a lib masquerading as a conservative, just like Corey Teneycke. We can all see straight through it. The last one I'm going to share is probably my favorite. Alexander Brown, one of the co-founders of Without Diminishment. He's a co-founder alongside Kerry-Lynne Elliott. So he comes out and says, disappointing. I'm hoping for better from the full quote. Those liberal lobbyists included multiple former Poilievre staffers and some of the most respected movement conservatives in the industry. Not liking a specific campaign manager or pollster is one thing, but the base is poorly served by the inherent selfishness of the ongoing consultant wars. At this point, neither side is above reproach. Alex, one of my favorite things about Kerry-Lynne Elliott losing the race was that we don't have to be stuck watching the Conservative Party of BC give a contract to Without Diminishment. You know, they've done some work with Juno News, and if Kerry-Lynne would have won, I'm sure her being your co-founder, especially after watching some of your absolute trash writing that was so biased during the leadership race, I'm sure that it was likely that you guys would have received some sort of a contract with the Conservative Party. The fact that you're still waiting by the phone for that call is hilarious to me. I'm glad we're not going to have to put up with more of your writing because it's terrible, man. Like, you are so pompous and arrogant constantly online. It's hard to watch. And you know what? I really do like watching you squirm here. It's no wonder that you don't like Poilievre's comments. But here's the thing. Poilievre's comments were directed at Corey Teneycke and Nick Kouvalis, and we are all justified in calling them out. But you're coming on here probably trying to defend, I don't know, Katie Merrifield, former staffer of Poilievre, and Anthony Koch. But here's the thing, Alex. Their comms, the position that they were put in was comms, were horrible. They were going on X and other social medias just trashing local BC Conservatives, and that didn't help Kerry-Lynne Elliott. Like, honestly, this loss very much so lies at the feet of Corey Teneycke, but Katie Merrifield should take her own slice of the pie along with Anthony Koch, because the way they rolled out their comm strategy was piss poor. And you know what? I'm glad that we don't have to deal with more from Without Diminishment because Kerry-Lynne Elliott has lost this race. Now KLF, there's no chance she's going to be giving you a contract, and that's great. That's our update today. I'm sure tomorrow's going to have something new. Follow along for more.